Walter Dean Myers wrote her story in this book, at Her Majesty's request. It's our children's book selection this week. The author talked with students from the Champaign-Urbana area in Illinois.
Are you all set? Good afternoon, and welcome to Pages for All Ages Bookstore. We're very pleased to have Walter Dean Myers here today, and he'll be talking a little bit with you for about 15 minutes on writing and books, and he'll be happy to take any questions you might have, and then he'll start signing some books for you. So I'd like to introduce you to Walter Dean Myers.
Good afternoon. Oh, hi. Okay. What I do for a living is I write books. I've been writing books for 30 years. You're about 30, right? No? Not hardly? Okay. So what I'm going to do today is to talk you through one book. I'm going to tell you how I got the idea for the book and how I went about writing the book. And then we'll open the floor for questions. Okay? Say yes. Yes. Thank you. I have two books. One's about a cowboy. One's about an African princess. Which book shall I talk about? Cowboy. This one? All right. That's easy. Oh, once a year, I go on vacation to London. And when I go to London, I go to old bookstores and I buy tons and tons of books and I buy old photographs. And a few years ago, I went to London and I went to an old bookstore and the man told me he didn't have many books for me, but he had these letters. And there were 55 letters from a young African girl, and some were from the Windsor Palace in London about this girl. 55 letters about this African girl who lived in 1850. 1850 was even before I was born. I looked at some of the letters. Here's an example of one of the letters. Very strange. Yes. Hard to read? Yes, say yes. Yes. Yes, very difficult to read. What happens, this girl would write in one direction and then turn the page and write in a different direction. Why?
Lack of paper.
No, not a lack of paper. Well, what would happen if she would mail a letter with one page? It would be one rate, but 2 pages would be like 4 times more. So it was a cheaper. Now, what about this young girl? She had been caught up in the slave trade in West Africa in 1848, 1849, and she had been captured by this king, Gizo. And Gizo was going to kill her. He was going to have her killed in this ritual slaying. An English captain, Captain Forbes, who was a Quaker, and he was with the English who were now trying to stop the slave trade, came to Dahomey, where Gizo was, and said, well, look, he tried to stop the killing of a number of people. Gizo said no. But how about this little girl? He said, you can't kill a small girl like this. Of course, Gizo said, yes, I can. I'm the king here. They negotiated, and this African king decided to make a gift of this girl to Queen Victoria. Forbes took this girl to England. Now, is Queen Victoria, the Queen of England, going to be interested in a 7-year-old African girl? What do you think? You would think no. But there was one thing about Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria had a very unhappy childhood. Her father died when she was a baby, and her mother was this very distant sort of person. So perhaps Queen Victoria was sympathetic to this girl because of that. And she decided that she was going to take an interest in the girl, she was going to sponsor her education, and she was going to see that she was raised in England. And this is the story of Queen Victoria's relationship with this girl. Now, the girl lived in England from the time she was 7 years old, except for a few years in which she went back to Africa for education, until she was 19 years old. When she reached 19 years old, Queen Victoria said to her, it was time that she did what? Get out on her own? No. Get married. And she said, well, it's time for her to get married. Now, she had to find a husband. And she wanted to find a black man for her to marry. How many black men were in England? And not many. Not many. And so she decided that they would go to West Africa to find one. And now, what did the black man have to have? He had to have a good reputation, because this girl is going to be always connected with Queen Victoria. So the man had to have a good reputation. What else did he have to have? If you're going to marry the queens, a job or money. And so they found this Nigerian businessman. And they said and he proposed to Sarah. He's 40 years old. Sarah is 19. What did she say? He said, she said, no way, Jose. She said, I'm sorry. So Queen Victoria decided that what she would do is, because Sarah was living with this family, she would move her from her home and bring her to another place by herself. Sarah writes, they've moved me to a rat hole. I went to the rat hole. It was beautiful. It was this beautiful house overlooking the English Channel. It was a gorgeous place. But why did she say it was a rat hole?
Doesn't like the palace.
Well, she was unhappy. She was unhappy being moved. Should she marry this guy? She went back and forth. She wrote back to her adopted mother. My dearest mama, I have been in a state of mental misery and indecision ever since your letter arrived yesterday. I shall now tell you truly what my thoughts and feelings are with regard to Mr. Davies. That's the man the Queen wants her to marry. You remember, perhaps, when he proposed a year ago, I said I could never either love or marry him. And I thought it impossible for us to make each other happy. She does not want any part of this man. Why? Well, she's been living in England. She's been spending weeks at a time at Windsor Palace or at St. James Palace in London. And now suddenly they want her to marry an older man. What will happen to her? She was very, very upset, very nervous. What the book is about Sarah's life. How did I get the information about Sarah's life? Well, I had the letters to begin with. I hired a researcher to research her education in Sierra Leone. I went to England 3 times. I went to every place that Sarah lived. This photograph I got from Windsor Palace. From Windsor Palace also, I got the Queen's diary entries. The last photograph that I got on this particular, oh, I went to the church. She didn't marry the guy. I went to the church she was married in. I went to the town hall and got her marriage certificate. The last photograph that I got of Sarah was this lovely photograph. I was sitting at my desk about 3 o'clock in the morning, typing into things into the internet. And I typed in African princess, and this photograph came up. Was I happy? No. I thought someone else had done a book on this girl before me. What had happened, there was this photograph that was in a collection in Ottawa, Canada. They didn't know who she was, anything about her background, but an English collector had just collected these photographs. So in return for my giving them information about who Sarah was, they allowed me to use the photograph. All of this business, collecting the information, hiring researchers, working on the internet, is the pre-writing stage that I do. All of my writing is 3 steps: pre-writing, writing, rewriting. All that collecting information is the pre-writing. In the writing stage, I write 10 pages per day until the book is finished, and then the rewrites. I spend all of my life either getting ready to write a book, in the pre-writing stage, writing a book, or rewriting. Is that a good life? Say yes. How many think it's a good life? How many of you have some doubts? Put your hand down. It's a wonderful life. It's a wonderful life. When I was your age, how old are you? 10? How old are you? 10? Yes. 11? When I was 10, 11, what I wanted to be was a basketball player. I either wanted to be a shooting guard or a point guard. After that, perhaps a knight, then a cowboy. Way down on the list was author. So when I had a chance to write a book about a cowboy, I did. Same thing. In the pre-writing, I did research about cowboy life, then the writing, and then the rewriting. That's all I do. Do you have questions you would like to ask me about either these books, or it's better be an easy question, right?
I just wanted to ask you, what day did this lady die?
Excuse me?
What day did she die?
When did she die? She died on a Sunday in 1881 on the island of Madeira. She had tuberculosis, which was fairly common at that time. The last letter that I have in this book, she was an optimistic young woman. She died young at 39, and her last letter said that she expected to be fully cured within 6 months. As it turned out, she died within 4. You have a question?
Yeah. Which book do you like out of those 2?
What?
Which book do you like out of those two that you were talking about?
Which one do I like out of these two? I like them both. How many of you have hobbies? All right. Now, suppose someone paid you to do your hobby. Would that be good? Would that be good? Yes. Well, when I was young, my hobby was writing. I used to write as a hobby. So for years and years, I just wrote as a hobby, making no money at it. And then finally, I began to realize that you could actually sell stories.
What was it like to grow up in Ireland?
In what?
Ireland.
In Ireland. What was it like to grow up in Harlem? Harlem was my home. My mother lived there, my family was there, my church, my school, my friends. I loved it. There was a beautiful, warm community, and I loved it. Very often people think now that, oh, it's maybe a dangerous place and not such a nice place, but I loved it. It was, basically for me, it was home.
Where did you get the idea for the characters in the outside shot?
The characters in the outside shot? The outside shot is about a guy that plays basketball. He played basketball first in Harlem, and then he left Harlem and played in Indiana. Where I played basketball where? In Harlem, right? But when I came out of Harlem and I played basketball against guys from Illinois and Indiana, the game is different. The game is different. When I played ball, it's I had the ball, stop me, sucker. In the Midwest, there's more passing. It's a more team game, and I had to relearn basketball. So that was the idea for the outside shot.
Are you going to do any more picture books?
I'm not going to do more picture books. I have a picture book coming out about a dog who plays the blues. Yes, I will do more picture books.
Do you now live in Champaign?
No, I live in Jersey City. Does it get boring? No, it's the most exciting thing in the world. Look what I'm writing about cowboys. I'm writing about an African princess. I mean, I write about Harlem. I write about basketball. It's an exciting life. Come to my house. You'll see.
What is the most difficult part of your job? The part that you find the most challenging?
The most difficult part of writing, getting exercise, because I have two skills. I have the skill with using the use of language, and the other skill is the discipline to sit there every day and do the work. And I sit there day in, day out, day in, day out. It's really a good job. If you reach the point wherein you're making a living with it, nothing is hard. In that part, when you're trying to make a living, everything is hard.
This is kind of maybe more of a personal question, but in one of the bios that we read about this event, it said that you were a foster child, and I wondered if you could share for my children, because that's also been part of their experience, and in the world of adoption, about how you dealt with your birth family and accepting a new family and the loss issues, and what helped you.
I know it's
That's a big question. Well, my name is what? What's my name?
Walter Myers.
No, it's not. My name is Walter Milton Myers. And I'm a foster child, and I was raised by the Dean family. And my being raised by this family was never legally consummated, right? I was raised by a family in which it was nothing but love. And I was a loved child. And that was centered to my life. My foster father did not read or write. My mother read sparingly. But what they gave me was a confidence in myself just by being a loved child. Now, did I have problems? I did. I had all kinds of problems based upon other factors. How I fit within my community, primarily because I was the family, the neighborhood reader. I was the kid drawn to books. That gave me problems. My family was very poor. That gave me problems. And I gave them problems in return. However, eventually, I got myself straightened out. And looking back at my life, trying to figure out what went right and what went wrong, I think that I came out as a strong, very, very strong person based on that one idea. I was a loved child. Any other questions? Oh, go. Yeah.
Sorry. If you look around at pages here, you can kind of see who your audience is. Why did you pick these guys to write so much of your work?
All right. Why did I pick these guys? What I'm writing about, really, is the most interesting part of my life. And the most interesting part of my life was as a young person. Now, there was a mention of loss of my original family. Now, I'm not sure how that impacted on me. I'm not sure what problems I had from that. I know I had other problems beside the fact that I had a foster home. My other problems were I had a major speech problem. And I went to speech therapy for 12 years. My entire school career, I spent in speech therapy. So my problems at this age with speech, with the idea of my turning to books so much, made that an interesting aspect of my life. Any other questions? Nasty little comments? No? Thank you. You're a good audience.
If anyone would like books signed, or you could bring them up.
Oh, yeah, good.
Did you get any?
Later in the afternoon, Walter Dean Myers spoke about At Her Majesty's request and his other books to another group of elementary school students from the Champaign-Urbana area.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Walter Dean Myers, and what do? I write books for young people. And this afternoon, I'm going to talk to you about one book that I've done. And the book is called At Her Majesty's Request, An African Princess in Victorian England. All right, now, when you write a book, how many steps are involved? Anyone know? All right, let's try 3, okay? There are 3 steps, and the first step is that pre-writing process. First step is pre-writing, and in pre-writing, you do the research, you do the outlines, you decide what kind of book you're going to write. So you do the pre-writing, and then you do the writing, and then what do you do? What? Okay, you do, no, not reading, but, well, maybe. Pre-writing, writing, and so proofreading and rewriting, okay? So it's pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. Now, if I'm going to do a biography of someone, what do I need to find out about that person to write about them?
Read about them?
Okay, right, but what do I need to find out?
About where they lived and who
Where they lived. And this young girl was born in Africa, but later she lived in England. What else do I need to find out?
About England?
About England, that's a good question. So I bought a lot of books about England and read those books. That's part of my research. What else do I need to find out? When she was born. So I found out that at 7 years old, she had been captured by some people who wanted to hurt her, and that was in 1850, so I knew she was born in 1843. What else do I need to find out about her? She was born, she lived in the 1800s.
Why is she so famous?
Why is she so famous? All right, now, the reason she was so famous, I found out, was that a captain saved her from being killed, but she had a very famous friend, and the famous friend was Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria, the Queen of England, the most powerful person in the entire world at the time. Here's Queen Victoria. And Queen Victoria became this girl's friend. And she sponsored her education. And she supported her. So what else do I need to find out about this girl to write a biography? I'm writing about her life. Yes.
How many years old does she have?
How many what?
Years old.
How old she was?
Yeah.
Well, I know she was born in around 1843, and I know she died when she was 39 years old.
You also need to know her name.
Her name? Her name, I don't know her African name, but she was given an English name. She was given the name of Sarah, and her second name was Forbes, and Forbes was the guy that rescued her, and the last name was Bonetta, and that was the ship of the guy that rescued her. He sailed on the ship, the Bonetta. What else do I know? You people are very smart.
Pretty princess.
What?
Just a pretty princess.
She's pretty? Mm-hmm. I think she's a very lovely girl. Okay, how about the guys in the back there? What do you think?
Why the Queen is sponsoring her education?
All right. I wanted to know why the Queen would sponsor this girl's education. And what I discovered was that when the Queen was very young, her father died, and she had a very hard life. This girl's parents were killed, and I believe that this is why the Queen felt a bond between the two of them. So I spent a lot of time getting all this kinds of information together, same kinds of information that you're talking about. And I spent, several years doing this. And then I began to write the book. And I write with what? Wrong. A computer. I write it on a computer, and every day I write 10 pages. Is that a lot? Say yes. Yeah. Okay. Who said no? All right, I write 10 pages a day, and if this book is 145 pages long, I write 10 pages a day. It takes me how long to write the book?
14 days.
Ooh, you quick. Go on. Very good. Very quick. All right. So in 14 days, I had a first draft. Writing is 3 steps. The pre-writing, gathering all the information, my writing the first draft, then what do I do?
You see if you have to edit it?
I edit and rewrite. Are you a writer?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's what I do all my life. I spend all my time either researching books, writing books, or editing and rewriting. My latest 2 books are this book, which about the African princess, and the other one is about a cowboy named Joshua Loper. All right. So do you have questions you would like to ask me about? Oh, you don't have no questions? Okay.
How many years have you been an author writing books?
I've been an author writing books for 32 years.
What's your favorite book that you have written?
I don't have a favorite book, really. I have 3 children. Which is my favorite child? I don't like any of them. No, that's not true. That's not true.
What kind of books do you like to write?
I like writing fiction.
How did you think of your characters?
Well, with this particular book, she was a real person, so I didn't have to think about her. But normally, people I meet this young lady over here who's so fast with her math. She could be a character in a book, and I'll remember her. She's a quick little lady. Yes.
How hard was writing this book?
It wasn't. It took a long time, but it really wasn't hard. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy writing. So anything that I enjoy, I don't think is hard.
Where did you write your first story?
When?
Where?
Well, I wrote it in New York, and I wrote it in about 1969. Yes.
What were some of the other things that you wrote about when writing the African American novels?
I write about basketball, sports. I write about soldiers. Anything that interests me, I write about.
Are you influenced by any other author?
I'm influenced by a lot of other authors. I'm influenced by Mark Twain, Langston Hughes, Gabriela Mistral, a number of other authors.
In our class, we read the book Fallen Angels. What inspired you to write that?
I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. I came home with a few bullets in my pocket. I was a big guy, big man, right? Big bullets. And my younger brother saw me, and he was very much influenced by me. He joined the Army, too. And when he joined the Army, the war had picked up quite a bit, and he went to Vietnam, and he was killed the very first day he arrived in Vietnam. And so what that did, it made me both sad and gave me feelings of guilt. And Fallen Angels is the result.
What's your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school, gym. So,
When was your first book published?
I think around 1969.
Why do you enjoy writing fiction books?
It's fun, something to do. I mean, it's definitely cool.
How do you write such a long book on one subject? Subject.
Why do I have to write such a long book? How do I? By that pre-writing stage, I talked to you about pre-writing, very careful planning. I plan the books very carefully. I'm working on a book now, and I'm doing pre-writing, okay? And these are all my pre-writing notes. So this is going to be, I do all the pre-writing in this book, and this is the plan for the book that I'm going to write.
Who was your writing teacher in high school?
What?
Who was your writing teacher in high school?
My writing teacher in high school, a woman named Bonnie Liebau. Very wonderful person. You, yes. Yes.
How many awards have you gotten in your life?
How many awards? I don't know, 20, 25. I've lived a long time, man.
Do you think it's harder doing fiction books or nonfiction?
I'll come back to that question. No,
What made you think about being an author?
it was something that I enjoyed as a kid, something I liked writing as a kid. I think it's harder to write nonfiction because you have all those facts you have to take care of, and you can't make mistakes there. Yeah.
Was the point of view from like one of your friends or someone that you know that has experienced the war, or was it just from different people's point of views?
Primarily, I use myself as a model for Perry, and his friend Pee Wee was a guy who was in the Army with me, and the younger brother that he wrote to was my brother Sonny. Yes.
Why did you write Brown Angels?
Why did I write Brown Angels? I collect photographs. I have like 10,000 photographs at home, and I like the old photographs. I think they represent a beauty that people don't often see in books.
Have you ever wrote a book about a different culture?
A book about a different culture? No, I don't think so.
How old were you when you wrote stories?
I started writing at 9, and I wrote poetry for the first few years, and I began writing short stories at around 13 or 14. I think that's the question.
What's your favorite book that you've written?
I don't have a favorite book. No. Young lady?
Is it hard to write a book?
No, it's work. And is it hard? Sometimes it's hard, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Now, sometimes it's hard work, but I enjoy it. Yeah.
Who's your favorite author?
Who's my favorite author? Oh, I have so many favorite authors. I like Mark Twain, Langston Hughes. I've got a dozen. See me later, we'll talk about it.
What experience did you have when you wrote books?
What experience? Just being alive, I guess. But I was in the Army, so I wrote a book about the Army. I played basketball. I wrote about basketball. I lived in Harlem. I write about Harlem. So whatever I do, that experience comes into a book.
What book did you write that you don't like?
That I don't like?
What books that you wrote but that you don't like?
I like them all, pretty much.
But what do you don't like?
I think I like them all.
Even some books that make you mad or sad?
Yep. I still like the books.
Make you even mad? You can
Even if they make me mad, I like them. Okay, we have time for one more question. Who has not asked a question?
The Council on Interracial Books for Children, I've seen that they kind of got you started. Is that an accurate read?
Okay, I wrote, before the Council on Interracial Books contest, I was writing in other avenues. I wrote for magazines and newspapers. So I've been writing for magazines and newspapers for years. And I wrote for quarterlies. That was the contest that got me into writing books for children. Very last question, my friend here.
How many books do you write?
How many books have I written or published? You don't know the difference. Okay, I've written, I think I've published about 62 books, 63. It's a lot of writing, right? Kill them trees. Thanks a lot, you're a good group.
If you'd like to have any books signed, if you want to line up here, Mr. Myers will be happy to do that for you.
Walter Dean Myers is a 2-time recipient of the Newbery Medal and has received the Coretta Scott King Award 5 times for his children's books. This book, at Her Majesty's request, is published by Scholastic Books on the web at scholastic.com. Other books by Mr. Myers include Malcolm X and Harlem. Book TV goes to Los Angeles next weekend for the annual LA Times Festival of Books. Our live coverage begins next Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with a panel discussion on writing memoirs. Participants include Malachi McCord and Homer Hickam. We'll also bring you a conversation